How's it going, Dave here? And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about modal interchange and how you can use modal interchange in your neo-soul playing. So let's quickly explain what modal interchange is, and then I'm going to jump into 5 different examples in the neo-soul style so you can see how to use modal interchange in that context. So modal interchange is basically where we borrow chords or melody from a parallel mode. So what is a parallel mode? A parallel mode is a mode that has the same tonic or root note. So for example, C major and C Phrygian, they both start with the note C, so they're parallel. Here is a chart of some modal interchange chords we can use. So as you can see, I've got all the chords for C Ionian or major, C Dorian, C Phrygian, C Lydian, C Mixolydian, C Aeolian, and C Locrian. So what we could do is we could play a chord progression in the key of C major. Now this chart is available in my book Chord Charisma, which you can check out at my Patreon page. So if you're interested in diving deeper into modal interchange, definitely go and grab my book. But let's take a look at a basic chord progression that we can do first using modal interchange. So we are going to be playing C, A minor, F, G. A very basic chord progression in the key of C major. So if we were to borrow a chord from one of these parallel modes, let's say C Phrygian, and we're going to borrow the A flat major from C Phrygian. And I'm going to chuck that A flat major just before we hit that G. And it just spices the chord progression up a little bit. So we could use modal interchange like this to add chords to our chord progression, or we could completely substitute out chords that are in our chord progression for modal interchange chords. And I'll show you examples of both. So there are a few rules we should follow when using modal interchange to get the most out of it. Obviously, when I say rules, you don't have to follow them 100% of the time, but generally these rules work. The first rule would be to establish the key that you're playing in before adding modal interchange chords in. So you want to make sure, say for example, you're playing in the key of C major, the listener knows that you're playing in the key of C major definitively before we use a modal interchange chord. Otherwise, we run the risk of our chord progression sounding messy and confusing and just not very pleasant to listen to. The second rule that I suggest that you follow is that you keep your use of modal interchange short and sweet. You just sprinkle it into your chord progressions rather than making maybe half of an entire chord progression modal interchange. But it can work. I'm not saying that this definitely doesn't work. This does take experimentation, and these rules are just a guideline, not something you should strictly follow. And the final rule of modal interchange is that whenever you borrow a chord from a parallel mode and you're playing a melody, you want to use the scale that you borrowed the chord from to play the melody. So for example, if we're in the key of C major, we'd play the C major scale over our chord progression, but if we borrowed a chord from C Lydian, we'd play the C Lydian scale over that chord that we borrowed from C Lydian. And then when we go back to C major, we just play the C major scale again. So that's enough talking. Let's get into some examples where I implement modal interchange. So what I'm going to be doing is doing a before and after. I'll be playing a chord progression without modal interchange, and then I'll be showing you what it would sound like with modal interchange. So here's example number 1 before modal interchange. So in that chord progression, we were playing C major, D minor 9, and F major before finishing on C. Now, one really cool use of modal interchange is the minor 4 chord. So the 4 chord in our key, which is C major in this case, is F, and we played an F major, so that's fine. But we could borrow the 4 chord from the parallel minor key, so C minor, and that is F minor. So after that F major, we're going to play an F minor, and you'll hear like from F major to F minor. It sounds very, very gorgeous. And of course, when I'm playing the F minor, I'm playing the C minor scale over the top because we're borrowing this F minor from the key of C minor. So let's take a listen to what this chord progression would sound like after adding some modal interchange. There you go, a really awesome sound. So now let's take a look at our second example before modal interchange. Okay, so this is in the key of C again. We're playing C major 7, we're playing A minor 7, then we're playing a D minor add 9 sort of chord, then we're playing G7 there. So what we're doing between the C major 7 and the A minor 7, we're adding the 2 chord from the parallel minor. So the 2 chord from the parallel minor is D minor 7 flat 5. And we're playing that D minor 7 flat 5 before we hit the A minor. So it's between the first 2 chords. And what we're doing is we're playing a drop 2 second inversion version of the D minor 7 chord there. So if you want to learn about drop 2 voicings, then check out my video I've done on drop 2 voicings where I go into depth there. So now let's take a listen to the whole thing using this modal interchange. Okay, so example 3 doesn't have a before and after, it's just one riff. So I'm going to play it for you and then I'll explain it. Alright, so again, this is in the key of C major. Playing a C major 7 drop voicing there. And then just using the C major pentatonic to establish the fact that we're in C major. Then what I'm doing here is borrowing the second chord from Phrygian, which is going to be on the flat 2nd degree. So we're playing a D flat major 7 chord as well. So we're just playing the same chord a fret higher. Okay, that's borrowed from C Phrygian. And then the notes I'm playing are borrowed from C Phrygian as well. So that's how that one works. Now let's take a look at example 4, the before version. Alright, so what am I doing there? We're playing in the key of B major this time. So we're starting on a B major 7. We're moving to a C sharp minor 11 chord. Very pretty sounding chord, that one. Then we're moving to an E major 7. And then we're playing a F sharp minor, an F sharp 11, sorry. And we're just adding some little pentatonic bits in the middle. Now let's take a look at the chord progression with modal interchange and then I'll explain what I did there. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm borrowing from B Lydian. Okay, so we're playing in the key of B major, but I'm borrowing a chord from B Lydian. And I'm borrowing the chord on the sharp 4th degree, which is an F minor 7 flat 5 chord. And we're putting that between the E major 7 and between the F sharp 11. Okay, so the notes in the bass actually go E, F, F sharp, and it gives us a cool chromatic kind of sound. So we're going like that. So as you can see, we can use modal interchange for a vast number of purposes. Now, all the examples so far have been me adding chords to the chord progression. And I did say I would show you an example where I just completely substitute out chords within our chord progression for modal interchange chords. So let's do that in this chord progression. Here's the before version. Okay, so what we're doing there is playing in the key of E. We're starting with an E6-9 chord. Then we're moving to an F sharp minor 9 chord. Then we're moving to an A major 7. Then a B11 chord. Alright. Now, what we can do is we can borrow some chords from the parallel minor and replace the last 2 chords in our chord progression with the 2 chords from our parallel minor. So what I'm doing is instead of playing the A major 7, I'm playing an A minor 7, which appears in the key of E minor. And also, instead of playing B11, I'm playing D7, which appears in E minor as well. So we're playing A minor 7 and D7. This 7th chord, where we play it 2 frets below our root note, is called the backdoor dominant, and I've done a video that goes into a lot of detail on the backdoor dominant up there. So go and check that out either now or after you finish the video. Let's take a listen to how the chord progression sounds when I add those 2 borrowed chords from C minor into the chord progression instead of the other 2 chords that are diatonic to our key. So there you have it, modal interchange. I hope this video was really helpful for you. I hope that it's going to give you lots of ideas. Feel free to steal all of these ideas for your own playing. I will not be offended. As I said, my book Chord Charisma goes into a lot of depth with modal interchange. So if you're interested, definitely check the book out. It's available at my Patreon page. You've just got to sign up to the gold tier membership and you'll have the book available to you. If you're not sure if you want the book just yet, then you can check the first 2 chapters out for free down in the description as well. And those first 2 chapters are going to show you a lot. So they're going to show you how to write a basic chord progression to start off with, and then build that chord progression into something sounding very sophisticated and jazzy and appropriate for neo soul using extensions. So things like 6th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and 13th. And all the chord shapes are there. So you're going to have a lot of fun creating some really interesting new sounds. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And check out this next video, and I'll see you there.